Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about the way you talk to a man. Because when you get this right, you don't just get his attention, you own his attention. Now, here's the truth. A man might notice your looks first, but it's the way you speak to him that keeps him coming back, thinking about you when you're not even around. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. It is one thing I've learned about relationships, it's this. Confidence will change the entire game for you. You can have the most beautiful face, the nicest hair, the perfect outfit. But if you step into a man's presence without confidence, it's like walking into a room with the lights off. Nobody can see your shine. Now, when I say confidence, I'm not talking about being loud, arrogant, or trying to prove you're better than somebody else. I'm talking about knowing exactly who you are, what you bring to the table, and not apologizing for it. That kind of energy is magnetic. It makes a man sit up straighter. It makes him pay attention because he's looking at you thinking, now this right here, this is a woman who knows her worth. Confidence is something you wear before you put on your makeup, before you fix your hair, before you slip into your outfit. It's in the way you walk into a room. It's in the way you greet people. It's in your body language. You ever seen a woman walk into a place and everybody just turns their head? She might not even be the most traditionally beautiful woman in the room, but the way she carries herself, that's what makes people notice. That's confidence, baby. Men feel that energy like heat coming off a fire. See, when you talk to a man from a place of confidence, you don't have to over-explain yourself. You don't have to convince him to like you. You don't have to perform like you're auditioning for his approval. Your tone is steady, your words are clear, and your presence says, I'm comfortable in my own skin. And trust me, men can spot the difference between a woman who's acting confident and a woman who truly is. Acting confident is like spraying perfume. It smells good for a moment. But true confidence, that's a natural scent. You can't fake it and you can't hide it. The thing about men is they respond to certainty. When a man sees you speaking like you're sure of yourself, living like you know your value, he starts to believe in that value too. It's not even about impressing him. It's about setting a standard. And here's the real truth. A confident woman automatically sets the bar without saying a word. He knows right away he can't come to you with halfway effort. He knows he can't treat you like an option. And if he's not ready to step up, he's going to back up. And that's exactly what you want, because confidence also works like a filter. It draws the right kind of men in and sends the wrong kind packing. A lot of women make the mistake of thinking confidence is about looking perfect, having the perfect life, or never making mistakes. No, confidence is about embracing who you are, flaws and all, and still walking like you belong in every room you enter. It's about knowing that your value doesn't decrease just because someone else can't see it. And when you talk to a man with that mindset, he hears it in your voice. You could be talking about your day, your job, your favorite food. It doesn't matter. The message underneath is, I like me, and I don't need you to like me to keep liking me. That's powerful. Confidence also changes the way you handle his attention. A woman without confidence might cling to every word he says, overanalyze every text, try to please him at every turn. But a confident woman, she listens, she engages, but she doesn't lose herself in the process. She's not afraid to disagree. She's not scared to say what's on her mind. And she's not worried about whether or not he'll stick around. And that, ironically, is what makes him want to stick around even more. Here's the thing. Confidence is attractive, but it's also contagious. When a man spends time with a confident woman, it challenges him to level up. He starts thinking, if she believes in herself like that, maybe I need to believe in myself more too. And that's when a dynamic shifts. You're no longer just a woman he's dating. You become a woman he admires, respects, and looks up to. That's when you got his full attention, because you're not just talking to his ears, you're talking to his spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. When you're talking to a man, the words you use are important, but the way you say them, that's the real magic. See, you can have the most interesting things to say, but if your delivery is flat, if there's no warmth in your tone, it's like serving a cold dinner. It just doesn't hit the same. Warmth is what draws a man in. It's that softness in your voice, that gentle smile, that easy laughter that makes him feel safe to be himself. But here's the twist. You can't just give it all away. You got to keep a little mystery in your pocket, because mystery is what keeps him coming back for more. Now, warmth is about making someone feel welcome in your space, whether that space is your presence, your conversation, or your life. It's the way you look at him when he's talking, like you're actually interested in what he's saying. It's the way you respond without rushing to cut him off. A man can feel when a woman is genuinely listening versus when she's just waiting for her turn to talk. Warmth is letting him know, hey, I see you, I hear you, and you matter in this moment. And when you make a man feel seen and heard, you've just tapped into one of his deepest needs. But here's where most people mess it up. They confuse warmth with overexposure. They think if I want him to feel comfortable, I should tell him everything about me. No, that's not how it works. Warmth invites him in, but mystery keeps him curious. If you lay out your whole life story in the first week, you've just taken away the adventure. Men love the process of discovery. They love finding out little pieces of you over time. That's what keeps them thinking about you when you're not there, because they know there's more to learn. Think about it like this. If you watch a movie and in the first 5 minutes they tell you exactly how it ends, do you really care about the rest of the story? Probably not. But if the story keeps giving you clues, little surprises, hints of what's to come, you're glued to your seat. That's exactly how you want a man to feel in your presence. Warm enough that he feels good around you, but mysterious enough that he's leaning in wondering, what's she gonna say next? What's she going to reveal about herself? Warmth without mystery can make you feel too available, too predictable. Mystery without warmth can make you seem cold, distant, or hard to approach. But when you mix the two just right, you create this irresistible balance that drives a man wild. He feels drawn to you because you make him feel good, but he's also intrigued because he knows he hasn't figured you out yet. And that's the sweet spot. One way to keep that balance is in the way you answer his questions. Let's say he asked about your weekend. Instead of giving him a play-by-play from morning to night, maybe you share 1 or 2 highlights, then leave out just enough detail that he has to ask another question if he wants to know more. Or maybe he asks about your dreams and goals. You give him a glimpse of your vision, but you don't map out the whole plan. This keeps him invested in the conversation and makes him work a little to get closer to you. And don't underestimate the power of your tone when you're keeping mystery alive. Sometimes the way you pause before answering, the little smile you give instead of explaining everything, that can say more than words ever could. Men pick up on those small cues and it drives them crazy in the best way. They'll replay that moment in their mind, wondering what you meant, wondering what you're thinking. And that's exactly where you want them, thinking about you long after the conversation is over. When you talk to a man with warmth, you build comfort. When you talk with mystery, you build desire. And when you combine both, you don't just have his attention in the moment. You have it when you're gone, when he's lying in bed at night, when he's at work the next day. You're not just another person he spoke to. You're the person he can't stop wondering about. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Your tone is one of the most powerful tools you've got when talking to a man. See, a lot of women think it's all about the words, but I'm telling you, the music matters just as much as the lyrics. You could say the exact same sentence in 2 different tones, and one will make him lean in closer while the other makes him check his phone. Your tone tells him how you feel, how much you care, and how interested you are. And you can do all that without spilling every card you're holding. The beauty of tone is that it's like a secret language. It's the difference between saying, "Oh, really?" like you're bored, and saying, "Oh, really?" like you're intrigued. One shuts the conversation down, the other opens it up. And here's the thing, men pay attention to that. They might not even know they're doing it, but they're reading your tone as much as they're hearing your words. Now, when I say use your tone to show interest, I don't mean you have to sound like you're in love after 2 dates. I mean, you let just enough warmth and curiosity slip into your voice so he knows he's got your attention. Maybe you slow down a little when you're asking him something personal. Maybe you let your voice drop just slightly when you're sharing something about yourself. That shift makes the conversation feel more intimate, even if you're just sitting across from each other at a coffee shop. But here's the key. Don't give away everything with your tone. If you're too enthusiastic all the time, if you're too quick to sound overly impressed or overly invested, you lose that balance that keeps him working for your attention. Think of your tone like seasoning in a dish. You add enough to make it flavorful, but you don't dump the whole bottle in. You let him enjoy the taste, but leave him wanting more. Men are hunters by nature, and your tone can be part of that hunt. If you keep it playful, a little unpredictable, he's going to keep leaning in, wondering what's coming next. Maybe you respond softly to one thing he says, then tease him the next. That variation keeps him on his toes. He doesn't feel like he's got you completely figured out. And that's what keeps the conversation exciting. Your tone can also communicate boundaries without you having to lecture him. You can be firm without being cold, and you can be kind without being too available. For example, if he says something you're not feeling, you don't have to match his energy. You can pull back your tone slightly, make it more neutral, and he'll pick up on it. And when you're into what he's saying, you lean in with your tone, just enough for him to notice. Think about it. How many times have you remembered someone not for what they said, but for how they said it? Maybe it was the way they laughed at your joke, or the way they softened their voice when they told you a secret. Those moments stick because tone carries emotion, and emotion is what connects people. If you master your tone, you can make a man feel like he's special without giving him the impression that you're already his. You can make him feel comfortable enough to open up while still leaving him wondering where he stands. That's the balance. Letting him feel wanted, but also making him feel like he has to earn more of that from you. And don't forget, tone isn't just about volume or pitch. It's about pacing, pauses, and emphasis. A well-timed pause can make him hang on your next word. A slight emphasis on certain words can make them feel more personal. These little adjustments can change the whole feel of the conversation without you saying anything outright. When you use your tone like this, you're not just talking, you're creating a whole experience for him. You're making the conversation something he feels, not just hears. And once a man starts feeling something in the way you speak to him, that's when you've got his attention in a way he can't shake off. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, if you want to get inside a man's heart and mind, you've got to do something most people forget how to do. You've got to ask him the right questions. See, everybody loves to talk about themselves, but men especially love when somebody makes them feel like they matter, like their story is worth hearing. And here's the thing, most of the time, nobody's asking. They get asked about work, about bills, about fixing something in the house, but rarely do they get asked about them. So when you step in and start asking questions that make him feel seen, understood, and important, you're already standing out from everybody else in his life. The key is this. You can't just ask surface level stuff like, how was your day? Or what did you have for lunch? That's fine for small talk. But if you want to connect, you've got to go deeper. You've got to ask questions that let him open up about what matters to him. If he's talking about something he's passionate about, his work, his hobby, his goals, you don't just nod and move on. You ask, what got you into that? Or what's your favorite part about doing that? That tells him you're listening and you actually care about the answer. And let me tell you, when a man feels like you care about what he's saying, he's going to keep talking. And when he keeps talking, he's letting you into his world. But here's the magic. Don't just ask to gather facts. Ask to understand him. Ask to make him feel like you're interested in him as a person, not just the story he's telling. That's where the connection happens. Another thing, don't rush to fill every silence. Sometimes if you give a man space after asking a good question, he'll give you an answer that's deeper than what he first planned to say. Maybe you ask, what's been the best part of your week? And he says something quick like, oh, just work stuff. If you just nod and move on, you'll never know the rest. But if you pause and give him that moment, he might follow it up with, actually, I closed a big deal I've been working on for months. It felt amazing. Boom. Now you've got a window into what motivates him, what he's proud of. That's valuable information, and it makes him feel valued just for sharing it with you. The way you respond to his answers matters just as much as the questions you ask. If you respond with genuine curiosity, wow, how did you do that? Or what did that feel like for you? You're showing him that you're not just making conversation, you're invested. Men pick up on that energy, and once they do, they start associating you with feeling appreciated and understood. That's a powerful connection. And don't be afraid to mix in questions that are light and fun. If all your questions are deep and serious, the conversation can start to feel like an interview. Throw in something playful. If you could take a month off and go anywhere, where would you go? Or what's the most ridiculous thing you've ever done for fun? That lets him relax and show another side of himself while still feeling like you're interested in his story. The real magic happens when you remember the little details he's shared and bring them up later. If he mentioned a project he was working on, ask him about it a week later. If he told you about a game he's excited for, follow up when it happens. That small act says, I was listening and I remembered, and that makes him feel important in a way that sticks with him. When you ask a man questions that make him feel understood, you're not just talking, you're building trust. You're telling him without words, I see you, I value you, and I want to know you. And when a man feels that, he's going to open up more, invest more, and think about you long after the conversation is over. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, if you want to keep a man's attention, you can't just nod, smile, and agree with everything he says. That might make him feel good for a moment, but it won't keep him engaged. Men are wired for a little challenge. They like to feel like they're working for something. And when you bring that playful challenge into the conversation, you give him exactly that without turning it into a battle. It's about teasing without being mean, disagreeing without being disrespectful, and keeping the back and forth energy alive so he's always leaning in for more. Now, this doesn't mean you're trying to compete with him or outsmart him at every turn. It's about giving him just enough resistance to make the interaction exciting. If he says something he's clearly proud of, you can give him a little smirk and say, oh, really? Is that the best you can do? Or maybe he's telling you about his basketball skills. You tilt your head and say, I believe it when I see it. That right there flips the script. Instead of him trying to impress you once and being done, now he's thinking, oh, I've got to prove myself. And when a man's trying to prove himself to you, you've already got his attention.